Heroes are an inspiring group of people. Every one of them, from the larger-than-life comic book heroes you see on the big silver screen to the everyday heroes that let us live the privileged lives we do. Every hero has a story to tell. The doctor saving lives at your local hospital, the war veteran down the street who risked his lives for our freedom, the police officers and firefighters who risk their safety to ensure ours. Every hero is special and every story worth telling, but there is one class of heroes that I think is often ignored. The entrepreneur, the creator, the producer, the ones who look at the problems in this world and think to themselves, you know what? I can fix that. I can help people, and I can make a difference. Then they go out and do exactly that by creating a new product or introducing a new service. Some go on to change the world, others make a world of difference to their customers. Welcome to The Hero Show. Join us as we pull back the masks of the world's finest heropreneurs and learn the secrets to their powers, their success, and their influence, so you can use those secrets to attract more sales, make more money, and experience more freedom in your business. I'm your host, Richard Matthews, and we are on in 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome back to The Hero Show. My name is Richard Matthews. I am on the line with Jean Ginzburg. Jean, are you there?
Yes. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Glad to have you here. Let me introduce you for the folks who've never heard of you before. So Jean is a #1 best-selling author, award-winning entrepreneur, and digital marketing expert with more than 12 years of industry experience helping companies scale revenue, optimize sales and marketing processes, and improve productivity. You're the CEO and founder of GeanGinzburg.com, or Ginzburg, I'm sorry, and which is a digital marketing education company, and Ginball Digital Marketing, a digital marketing agency. And you've got clients everywhere from Fortune 500 companies to startups. And you've been featured on Inc., Forbes, and Huffington Post, and got a list of awards that is a mile long. So why don't you tell me today what you're known for? What is it that people come to you for? Why do they hire you? What is what's the typical thing that you help businesses do?
Absolutely. So I've been doing this for 12 years, and I would say now typically I usually work with entrepreneurs, small to medium-sized businesses, and they usually come to me with help on how do I grow my business using digital and social strategies. I would say that's where I'm mostly known for. We do work quite a bit with info product creators or digital course creators or entrepreneurs who want to create or have a digital course or want to basically productize their knowledge in something that is beyond just like having clients or trading time for dollars or something like that. So we've worked with a lot of those kinds of entrepreneurs and helped them grow and scale their whatever that is, the info product, that piece, the digital course that they're looking to productize their knowledge from.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's actually what I spend most of my time doing is the helping my clients productize their knowledge. I call it instructional design, help them do their instructional design and the marketing and sales and stuff. So we're in a similar space there.
Yeah.
So why don't you let me know? I want to talk about your origin story, right? And so we talk on the show. Every hero's got their origin story, and it's where you started to realize that you were different, that maybe you had superpowers, and maybe you could use them to help people. How did that happen for you? How did you get started on this entrepreneurial journey and get to the point where you're building a business that's recognized as what are some of these awards that I had pulled up? Woman to Watch in July 2018, and top 25 ad agencies in Denver, and a bunch of other awards.
Yeah. So I think I'll probably start with back in the day. So my story starts with, I'm actually from the former Soviet Union. I was born in Russia. And as probably most people know, when it's Soviet Union, very non-entrepreneurial, absolutely no entrepreneurship there whatsoever. So grew up in communist era, and my family and I, we immigrated to the United States when I was 8 years old. So came here, and I think just because I didn't grow up with entrepreneurship at all, I think that was just kind of always in the back of my mind. So I went to college, got some jobs, and went up through the ranks, but just always in the back of my mind, I was kind of thinking, hey, I think there's, I've always, wanted to start my own thing. Like, I think there's a better way. I think I could do better with clients if I were to just start something on my own. So that was, I think, always kind of swimming in the back of my mind. Over time, the jobs that I had, like I said, I've been doing this for 12 years in digital marketing and social media. So everything, that I've had in terms of positions that I've held have been all in the digital marketing space. So I think that was how I started off in terms of my area of expertise. And so 6 years ago, almost actually 7 years ago now, I decided, I think that I'm going to take the plunge. Like, it's time for me to start something on my own. I just working for the company that I was with, and just in general companies that kind of seem very inefficient. There's a lot of politics. So I decided, I think that I can do much better with clients if I were to just serve them directly. So that's really how I started my business about almost 7 years ago. And so got into, I was already in digital marketing, so it was pretty easy transition for me to go from working at a company to starting my own company. And in terms of serving people and the kinds of companies or entrepreneurs that I worked with, I think that came over time. I think primarily I started working with entrepreneurs when I first started my company, and I still do, but we've kind of grown a little bit in the sense that we've taken on some bigger clients, of course, and we've taken on some bigger challenges with clients and bigger projects. So over time, that of course has changed as well and evolved, as I know we all evolve all the time as we're entrepreneurs. And so, and then over time, it also has evolved in the sense that we help entrepreneurs productize their knowledge. So in the beginning, we've worked with a lot of different companies, but now we've niched down just because we've had the experience over time. Like, we kind of know what it's like to create a digital course or an info product, what it's like to market it, what it's like to get your audiences, how to use social media for all that. So we have, it's just kind of, I think, become a specialization for us, if you will. So I would say this is my entrepreneurial journey. Does that cover most of it?
Yeah, that's, it's really interesting. So just out of curiosity, do you still speak Russian?
I do, yes, fluently. So I still speak Russian with my parents.
So I know 2 whole phrases in Russian, and I'm going to test them out on you because why not, right?
Yes,
so
absolutely.
I know the phrase "Novoe pokolenia," which I believe means new generation. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So I could say that. It's very not useful, but I know how to say that in Russian.
I was like, are you going to give me any swear words? Because I don't know if I can.
And the other one is "Spokojnie noche," which I believe is good night.
Good night. Yes, absolutely.
That's it. So that's I can tell people good night, and I can say new generation in Russian, and that's the only thing I've got.
The new generation, I understand the good night, but the new generation, where did that come from?
It was the name of a summer camp that I worked at in Russia in high school. So they had in Moscow, an organization in my hometown in California put together a summer camp in Moscow for the Russian kids that was, I guess in the school systems in Russia, they taught English, but most of the teachers were British and most of the kids wanted to learn the American accent. So they would bring kids over, like at my, I was in high school at the time, they'd bring us over and we would do an English camp with them over the summer, and we would do classes and whatnot during the day with the kids. I had a class of 2 second graders, I think. Mm-hmm. And my friends had different classes or whatnot, and then we had, and we spent the day teaching, and then we'd play fun and games and do summer camp stuff in the afternoon. But the goal basically was they wanted to just hang out with Americans and learn how we spoke. So it was kind of a fun thing we did in high school.
That's really cool. Yeah, I think they probably started doing that after the wall fell, right? I'm assuming, or is that what?
Yeah. Okay. So that would have been in the early 2000s.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. So yeah, that's probably after the wall fall. Because when I was there and when my parents were growing up, there was very much the Iron Curtain. It was hard to get in and out of Russia. If you were in it, it's hard to get out. If you were not in it, it was hard to get in. So we probably started doing that. After the wall.
It was really interesting being there because it's America as a country has got our oldest buildings are 200 years old. And you walk around in the Red Square in Russia and they're like, this building's 800 years old and this building's 1200 years old. And you're like, that building is 5 times older than our whole country.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's like in Europe all over the place, this building
and you could see the hand of the communist regime all over the more modern architecture. Like when we went into the subway and like the whole thing is designed to make you feel small. And it's just really fascinating how that happened. And, you know, it's really beautiful architecture, but you can see like what they were trying to do with it. And like, you know, even going in the airport and talking to the the person who takes your passport and stamps it, they're like way up there and you have to like hand it up to them because they're looking down on you.
Authority, yeah, that's a big thing in Russia. Absolutely. Of course, I'm sure this was when I was growing up, they had also the communist block like architecture, which is like just concrete and windows.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure you probably saw a lot of that when you were there, like the old communist block architecture. You know, they did that all across Eastern Europe and Russia, where it was like just houses for people to live. Make it as simple as possible.
Do you ever go back to visit or see family or anything?
I've actually never gone. I mean, my parents live in Chicago, so
okay. Yeah. So your family's all here.
Yeah, yeah. And so my grandparents were there when we left, but now they're passed away a while back. I think. Actually, almost. I think my grandparents passed away like 20 years ago. So it's at this point, there's really not too many people for me to
not
visit.
many connections over there.
No.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. So back to your business after we detour on Russia a little bit, because that's fun.
Well, it's interesting. I'm sure people want to hear that kind of stuff.
Is your superpowers, right? It's what you specifically do or build or bring to your business that helps solve problems for people, the things that you use to slay this world's villain, so to speak. What would you say the superpower is that you bring to your organizations?
Sure. I think there's a couple of superpowers that think over time have kind of gotten to realize and understand, you know, what am I good at? Because I think as an entrepreneur, you have to realize what you're good at, and then you have to realize what you're not good at so that you can outsource that or give that to a team member or something like that. But I think for me, it has been communication has been a big superpower of mine. I think I'm very good at communicating, breaking things down, making sure that everybody is on the same page, team members, clients, whatever it might be. So that's been a big piece of, I think, what has helped me grow my business and just be an entrepreneur in general. And then also kind of similar in that vein is also chunking things down as much as possible in terms of like goals and things like that, because a lot of times I see that when entrepreneurs create goals, they're like, oh, this is so overwhelming, this is so big. But I think one of my superpowers has been, how do I take a goal, whether it's my goal or a client's goal or somebody I'm working with, and how do you make it into bite-sized pieces so it doesn't seem as overwhelming? So you're just taking one step at a time, kind of baby steps.
And eating the elephant, so to speak.
Exactly, one bite at a time. So that's, I would say, communication and I don't know, chunking things down or making goals more manageable would be my superpowers.
When you work with clients, do you find that communication is something that you have to help them with in their businesses regularly, like help them establish better communication principles or things like that, or is it just something that you've noticed has been really helpful in running your organization?
Definitely both. A lot of times, I think internally they might have, I feel like a lot of times they have clients have communication issues internally, and also how they're communicating to their external world. So since my area of expertise is digital marketing and social media, so it's also how do you communicate your message to the outside world. So it could be internal and external. So communication, of course, is a big piece of marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other side of your superpower is your fatal flaw, right? So if you think your superpower is the communication and chunking things down for people, the fatal flaw, like Superman has his kryptonite, or Batman's not actually a superhero; he just has to work really hard. Has there been something that you've noticed you think has held your business back, that if you could have gotten rid of it or worked on it sooner, you would have been further along than you are now? So question basically is, what is that, and more importantly, what have you done to help resolve it for people who might struggle with something similar?
I'd say in the beginning, one of my fatal flaws, and I think this is a fatal flaw that's common to most entrepreneurs, is trying to do everything yourself.
Yeah.
and letting go of the control and letting go of the reins. And I think, and I'm not saying like trying to be like, oh, let me find the easiest one, but I think it's the easiest flaw. I mean, but it's also, I think, is the one that I had struggled with when I was in my early days of entrepreneurship. And I still struggle with it a little bit, but I think I've gotten much better at understanding what I'm good at, like I said earlier, like what I'm good at, and then what I'm not good at, and finding people on my team who are better at it than me, and not thinking that I'm good at everything, because I'm not, and handing those reins over to them and being like, hey, just, you know, you're capable. I know that you are, so run with it, because I'm just standing in everybody's way here if I were to do this myself. So it's better if you were to take it and just move forward with it, because you're never gonna, and the company's not gonna move forward if I'm standing in the way. So I think that's something that I hear all the time. And I think that, I mean, that's definitely something that I've struggled with a lot, is in the beginning, is like how, and of course in the beginning you kind of do things yourself, right? Because
Yeah, you have to wear all the hats.
Yeah, like you don't have the budget or the bandwidth. I mean, you don't have the bandwidth, but you don't have the budget to really hire people. So for me, it started off small. Like I hired a virtual assistant part-time to help me with some of the administrative projects and like kind of day-to-day projects that I needed help with. And then my team grew from there. I hired people who do copywriting for me, who do graphic design, who do video editing. I also now have someone who's kind of what I call my right hand, who basically project manages everything for the company and for me, and is a personal assistant and an administrative assistant. So yeah, it's over time. I mean, you start small, and I think a lot, you know, taking that plunge, and for me, it was kind of difficult for me as well in the beginning. Is like, how do I take that next step, right? Like, how do I find a virtual assistant? So
yeah, I remember like specifically, because for me that happened just recently, like in the last year, where I was by myself and I did everything by myself and had for the last 9 years or so. And then I was like, I'm holding myself back and I need to take that plunge. And I remember one of the things that I was thinking, I was like, in order to hire someone, I have to allocate all this money to hiring that person. And I was like, I could use that money in other ways, right? Like in better ways. And, well, you know, so I thought, and what I didn't realize was that by hiring someone, the amount of time that you get back and the leverage that you get from having someone do work for you more than makes up for their cost, which is like, it's a weird thing to think about in your head, but you're thinking, you know, just for easy math, it cost me $1,000 a month to hire this person. You know, I could use $1,000 to put it into marketing or put it into other things, but that $1,000 a month gets you 40 hours a week, right? You know, if again, I'm just using easy math stuff, but but the 40 hours a week of someone else's time to help you leverage things, really, it changes the equation in your business, because now I can give someone an hour's worth of instructions and get 10 or 15 hours of work done. And that changes the game completely in terms of how much you can deliver and how quickly you can deliver and the quality of your deliverables for your clients, that it's easy to scale, or easier to scale, right? And take on more clients and replace the costs that it takes to hire someone.
Absolutely. And I think the other challenge which came along with this challenge was processes and standard operating procedure. And I think that's another piece that, well, I know that I had a challenge like that in the beginning, and I started to document everything that I was doing so that I could hand it off to someone. But I think that's another, I think it's kind of like the challenge is two-pronged, right? For an entrepreneur, is like, I have to hire someone, I have to find someone to hire, I have to spend budget and money on person to hire, and I also have to give them instructions and teach them and train them and create a process for what they actually need to do. So it's like almost like a double-edged sword in a way. You know, it's something that we all need to overcome as we decide that we can't just be solo. We need to, you know, in order to scale, we also need to scale our team, because without scaling our team, we can't scale the business. I mean, that's pretty much impossible.
It's a really great point too about the standard operating procedures too, because like before you have someone else, you can have all the procedures in your head and you're fine.
Yes.
As soon as you bring someone else in, you have to have like, this is the thing that we're doing, which
download.
Yeah, you have to download it. But what it does, it makes your operation more efficient, because now you're like, I've got like, this is exactly what needs to happen. And it forces you to think through your processes probably better than you'd had before.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
it'll immediately rear its head when you have a poor process, because someone else will come through and try to do your process and be like, I don't know what to do here. And you're like, oh, like I had decisions I was making that I didn't even realize I was making. And now you have to process those and get them out there, and you end up with a lot stronger business, I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And when I had real jobs before I started my what I call my real jobs, before I started my entrepreneurship, it's like none of the companies I ever worked with actually had a standard operating procedure, and they were all, some of them were big companies, like some of them were like hundreds of employees, and I was like, how? It's like all of it was dependent on someone training you, and so if that person who was supposed to be training you left or went on vacation or went on maternity leave or whatever, then there was no overlap, you know, between the person who left and the new person. It was like everything was just inside their head. So it was like things were, I know, at least the companies that I worked at were very inefficient. And so I was like, how do I make this efficient where, you know, when I have my own company, again, like making changes for myself, making changes that I thought were inefficient when I worked at other companies, was like, how do you do that for yourself? And having a standard operating procedure has like really allowed me to scale my business, because primarily the thing is like I've been able to hand off most of the client work, most of like the day-to-day stuff to my team, and then I have time to actually think and create and come up with new ideas and new products and work on these things and launch them. So it's like I actually have the time to take the next steps, like to take the risks and move forward with the business. Otherwise, I would just be stuck doing client work, which is fine, but it's like it's not a scalable business then.
Yeah, yeah, and it's one of the things that I've run into that I think is really powerful, is thinking through your processes in terms of doing what only you can do. Right. And the same thing with your employees, right? And your staff is you want to think through your processes in such a way that it's like that I've got my staff doing work that requires them to do it. Right. And when possible, we automate things. If a robot can do it, great. And then we need a human to do it. And it's like how do you free up your staff's time? How do you free up your time so that like each person is when everyone's work is leveraged, right? Everyone's doing things that are their highest and best use. And it makes for a much more efficient company.
It does. And it's interesting how you talked about a robot, because I think that, very, very much near in the future, I think we're going to be having robots do our work versus actually having employees do our work.
10 years from now, it's probably going to be one of two things. You're either going to tell robots what to do, or you're going to be told by robots what to do.
Yes, that is very true. I'm hoping that I'm going to be the one telling robots what to do, but I guess you never know. I hope the robots are not telling me what to do. But I remember I'm part of a mastermind group, and one of the things that they talked about, one of the sessions was like, what will happen? Because, since we do like my area of expertise is digital marketing, this is a digital marketing mastermind that I'm talking about. And they were talking about like what would happen in the next like 5 to 10 years when it comes to all the digital marketing that we do. Like right now it's all very manual, right? Like doing your Facebook ads is manual, and writing copy is manual, and putting offers in front of your audiences is very manual, and like, and it's very much one-sided, right? But in the future, you're thinking that like all of this can be optimized by robots. Your Facebook ads can be optimized by robots. Your copy is going to be written by robots. The offers that you put out there will be personalized to the people who are looking at them. So it's based on what you.
I'm actually working with a client that is building AI for copywriting, and it is ridiculously cool. And I've had a lot of my agencies, the sales letters and copy and whatnot, put through the robot. So now you can fill out a profile and hit a button and have it generate a sales letter that's almost as good as I would have written it by hand. Like 95%, 99% of the way there. You might go through and make a couple of adjustments and have it done in 2 seconds instead of 2 weeks.
I want to know the name of that company so that I can work with them.
It's CopyPull AI. They're currently launching. You're welcome to check them out. They're fantastic.
Oh, okay.
Fantastic. CopyPull AI, and they're currently looking for investors and partners and whatnot. So definitely, if you're in that space, check them out. They're really cool.
My team does write a lot of copy for my clients and for my business too. So it's, yeah, I mean, that's something
Yeah.
that I see.
Their
It's already starting.
their 2.0 launch is just around the corner, and one of the things that they're adding is they're adding the ability for you to put your copy frameworks into the robot so that the robot can generate copy for you from the profiles, using your things. But there's a lot of good stuff in there from Agora Publishing and from myself and from other big marketers. And so you can use their copy, but if you have your own copy frameworks that you use on a regular basis, you'll be able to put them in and have it spit out copy. And I was like, oh, this is just like money falling from the sky. Because, you know, if I can take the same thing that takes me 2 weeks and get it done in an hour, now I can do 15 of them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, it's already happening. I mean, besides CopyPro, but I remember reading an article maybe 6 months ago or a year ago that said that most now publications, like what used to be newspapers, I guess now are called, I don't know, media companies, like the New York Times or something like that. They, for their sports section, they actually, most of that is now written by a robot. It's not written by human, because it's so like templated, right? Like when you talk about sports, you know, like this happened and that was a score. So for something like that, it's actually already being written by a non-human.
Already being done by robots, yeah.
Yeah.
And is it like I use that on a micro level for my business, right? Just as an example, when this show is done, like when we're done recording this episode, I hit the stop record button, and that stop record button does a bunch of things, right? It's a trigger. So I like to think of automations in terms of triggers and actions. So my trigger is that I've stopped the recording, and it gets uploaded to Zoom's cloud, and the Zoom cloud takes it and sticks my Google Drive folder, and the Google Drive folder is being watched by a Zapier thing that's creating Trello cards and assigning it to staff, and then it moves through a whole process. And
That's awesome.
like
there's
there's a whole bunch of automation on that. And when it comes to like building your procedures, it's like when I first started, most of those things were being done by hand, by me or by someone on my staff. And we're just looking through, it's like, hey, where are we doing things on a repetitive basis where we can have a single trigger that sets everything else off. And, you know, it allows us to think through our operating procedures in terms of automation first, so that when a human being has to come in and do something, right? Like, you know, someone has to listen to it and come up with the title for the show. At this point, robots aren't good enough for that. So that's when you're like, I can bring a staff and you had to listen to it and pull out the good pieces and stuff like that. That's the thing that only a human being can do. So I'm always trying to think through my processes in terms of do what only you can do.
Right now, only a human being can do that.
Right now. It'll change. So we'll see.
You know, 5 years ago, you weren't even able to make this automation, right? Where like you click stop and then it goes to a Trello card, to a Zapier, and blah, blah, blah. And all of these people get added to it automatically. You weren't able to do that 5 years ago, but now you can.
Yeah, it's crazy. We weren't even able to do calls like this 5 years ago. Like our world is changing so fast.
Yeah, I mean, so rapidly. So in 5 years, probably a bot will be naming your stuff and then like doing all the editing and then posting it to your social media without you having to do much of anything, right?
Which really brings up a good point, in that you need to, as a business owner, right, as a solopreneur or as someone else, you need to be keeping track of what kind of automations are available and how you can use them in your business, because for a number of reasons, that if your competitors are using them and you're not, they're going to be more efficient companies. They're going to be able to spend more money on advertising and customer acquisition than you are, because they've got the extra resources and bandwidth to do it. So I think it behooves every one of us as solopreneurs and small entrepreneurs to really learn how to do the standing operating procedures and how to build robots, right? Use the tools that are available to you, because like I said, you're going to either be the one who's telling the robots what to do, or you're going to be told by the robots what to do.
Yep. We're all looking forward to that future. But what happens at that point? Like, what do we do with our time when all of the robots are taking over everything that we do?
So your business will be running all on its own, just putting money into your pocket, and then you'll just get to choose what to spend it on.
Oh, okay. So
it's an ideal lifestyle. No, I have no idea. I have no idea what's going to happen, but I imagine, just like everything else, we'll figure out new ways to grow and improve lives of people around us. So my next question for you actually has to do with your clients, right? So, you know, in terms of things that you help them with, and I like to talk about your common enemy, right? And this is, you know, when you bring someone on, and I assume this happens pretty regularly, where you have mindsets or
or roadblocks that are holding your clients back from getting really good results, right? It's something that you constantly have to fight against regularly with your clients, things that they're thinking or things that they're doing or things that they should be doing that they're not. That if you could just wave your magic wand and every time you brought on a client that was just taken care of and you knew you could just get them faster results, what would that be for you?
What would be their mindset that
the common enemy that you're fighting against on a regular basis?
You know what, actually is something that I've been thinking about quite a bit, and thinking about all of my clients that I've had or currently have, and where are the roadblocks. And really the thing that if I were to distill it down to one thing, it would be clients who believe in themselves and clients who don't believe in themselves. I know that it sounds very easy and very simple, but it's actually what I have seen to be the difference between successful clients and clients who are not successful, or just in general, successful entrepreneurs and unsuccessful entrepreneurs, which, I mean, some of, my clients are mostly all entrepreneurs, but it's really believing, the clients that I see that are successful are really the ones that believe in themselves, believe that in their abilities, believe in their message, believe that they can help their community, whoever their community is. And then it's the clients or the people or the entrepreneurs that I interact with who are like, I can see that they don't believe in themselves. I can see that they're not sure, they're not clear on things, they're not clear on their message, they're not clear on what they want to do, they're not clear on are they able to do it, are they able to be in a part of a challenge and then still get up and move forward. And that, I think, is really the mindset that I'm seeing in general, whether it's clients or anybody that I'm interacting with who started their own company, is really, do they believe in themselves?
Yeah. And it's such a big deal too, because I've noticed that in my business too. The clients who believe in themselves are more ready to take managed risks that have big payoffs than clients who don't. And the ones who are willing to take those risks are generally the ones who also see the rewards from taking those risks. Even if it's just as a smaller risk as like, I'm going to put $1,000 into ad spend this month, right? They're willing to do that and test it out and test their messages because they believe in it. And clients who struggle with that belief are generally, those struggles generally end up stopping them from shipping, right? From getting their message to the market. Whether that's ads or getting up on the stage or whatever it is that they're doing, it's that belief that stops them from taking that, whatever the perceived risk is.
Yeah, I think that's really the main key. Is if I were to distill it all down, it would just be, that would be it. Because if you believe in yourself, or if you believe in your message, what you're trying to do, that you are more confident, you are more willing to take risks, you're willing to move forward. But if you're just like, I don't know, I'm not sure, then it transcends across all of the things that you're doing.
So I'm curious how you deal with that in your business. Do you take the route where you actually coach clients until they get to the point where they got the belief to do the right things? Or do you just say, I'm sorry, you're not a fit for my business, you might want to go somewhere else? How do you handle that in your business?
I think in the beginning, actually, it was more like trying to coach them, and to some, varying degrees of success. But I think lately, in the last couple of years that I've had my business, I've turned away clients that I feel like would not be are not in the right headspace, don't have the right mindset. Because I don't feel like I am the coach for that, really. Yeah. Because this is not my area of expertise. I can see the successes and I can see the mindset, but I don't know if I'm really the person to
help coach. You fix it.
Yeah, exactly. That is, I think, a whole other can of worms that is, designed for coaches that specifically work on mindsets. And I don't, I'll be honest that we all have our areas of expertise, and that is not mine. So I have turned down a lot of clients in the last couple of years, since I've kind of grown my business, since I've known what I wanted, what kind of clients I want to work with. And if they're not really in the right mindset, then I just don't like taking those clients on because it's like usually it's a mismatch, and so it usually
and it's
and they're
hard
not going to be
to
successful.
it's hard to deliver the result you want to deliver.
Exactly.
Right.
And they also typically have very high expectations for what they want because they're like, this is, like, because their mindset is all kind of screwy. So they think that, oh, I'm going to do Facebook ads and tomorrow I'm going to become a millionaire. So, and it's usually the ones that have the right mindset are usually the more patient ones, the more like, hey, I know this is going to take time. I know that this is going to be a long road. We're in this together. But and I know I'm not going to be a millionaire tomorrow, but I will be a millionaire. It's just going to take some time.
Yeah, one of the defining characteristics I've got for my client avatar is I've noticed, and I think it has to do with the belief thing, but is whether or not they need whatever their online business. If they need their online business to pay the bills, then they struggle with belief. And if they're trying to get their online business as an additional stream of revenue into an existing successful business, then they don't struggle with the belief as much, and they're far more ready to do the work that's required.
Absolutely.
Right. So
same thing with the clients that I've interacted. The ones that have the right mindset, are successful, typically have a business that they're running that I'm not involved in, and then they are like, this is going to be my other revenue stream. I want to get this online business off the ground. And it takes time, and they know it. And basically their other business, venture capitals, and like this new online business, and they realize it, and they're like, that's totally cool. I get it. It's going to take time, but I'm working towards it. And also they're just like, typically they're high achievers, right? Because like if they already have a business that's successful and they're looking to create a second business that is an online business, then they're, and they have the time and the resources and the energy and the bandwidth to like put into the second business, then they're typically also high achievers.
Yeah. So it's either a second business, or it's like they're trying to add an online revenue stream to their existing business. And they realize it's like, starting a new business means that business is probably going to starve for the first 6 to 12 months. Right.
Sometimes even longer.
Yeah. Depending on how long it takes to, develop your message and develop your products and get all the things together and find the right audience for it. And, there's all the things that go into like actually making it successful. But if you're willing to put in that time and that work, then you can recoup those investments and have an ROI on it.
Absolutely.
Right. And they tend to think in terms of ROI instead of in terms of cost.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those are the exact thoughts that I always have, and I have had in the past couple of years, like having met those kinds of clients, and it totally resonates with me as well, because sounds like you have the exact same experience.
Yeah. And it's really interesting. So I'm not sure how that's, how we turn that into a useful tidbit for our audience, but just to think of in your business in terms of like, if you do need your business to pay the bills, you need to still be able to take on the mindset of someone who's using, who's willing to take the risks and willing to have the time and the patience go into it. So, there's that, because that's what it takes to really make your business successful.
Yeah, I think that a lot of times people go into this entrepreneurship thing too quickly, and maybe sometimes they need to hold on to their current job. And yes, it might suck. And I've had to do that as well. But then at least you have a revenue stream that's paying the bills, and then you can test out and fund this new business with your regular job. And eventually, you'll probably quit your job if things are successful. But it takes time and effort and energy and patience.
Yeah.
Patience.
Yeah. I kept my corporate job for a long time, and when I finally quit, I took a major pay cut because I had the corporate job and the business coming in. And then it's like you quit the corporate job and you're like, oh, that's a lot of money to say goodbye to. But same equation, you get all your time back. And
absolutely. But you have, but you're not worried about paying the bills. You're not worried about, am I going to be able to pay my mortgage next month or my rent? Because it's like, you have the revenue stream coming in from your regular job. So entrepreneurship is so big lately that it's like, everybody, should be an entrepreneur, but we all need to have, calculated risks and think about what is that going to look like for us and our families.
That's an interesting message. And I actually wonder if it's doing entrepreneurship a disservice to say that everyone should be an entrepreneur and you should do it now. And I get where it's coming from. It's coming from that good place where it's like everyone could be an entrepreneur if they wanted to be, right? Like you have, what is it? That Disney movie Ratatouille, right? It's saying anyone could be a cook. It's not that anyone could be a cook. It's that the great cook can come from anywhere, right? It's the same kind of thing. A great entrepreneur can come from anywhere. It doesn't matter what you're doing now. You could turn that into a great entrepreneurial business at some point. But it doesn't mean everyone should, right? Or that you should do it now, right? Sometimes it means you have to, you have to get some product development and get some, test the market and actually find that it's ready to go and keep the job going or keep whatever it is you're going. And I don't know, there's just a certain risk tolerance profile you have to be an entrepreneur and willingness to, I say, eat dirt.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like, unless you're funded heavily by some VC or something like that, then yeah, it's all going to be a lot of testing, eating dirt, figuring things out. And it's not all glamorous and it's not all fantastic. And like what they show on social media, they're like, oh, I have my Lamborghini and I have my jet behind me. So
yeah,
it's
and
not that.
like it's funny. I actually get that a lot because I travel full time with my family. We have an RV and we travel the country, right? We live the what do they call that? The nomad lifestyle that a lot of entrepreneurs are looking for. People are like, oh man, you're so lucky that you got there. I'm like, yeah, but it also it took 15 years of working my ass off to get to the point where I could do that.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not like a magic, it's not a magical thing.
Yeah. Like, oh, all of a sudden I have it all. So yeah, I think that it's entrepreneurship. People who are, I think I'm all for entrepreneurship. And I think if you have a great idea and if you're willing to do the hard work, then absolutely. But think about the risks and think about what it, I mean, one of the things I always say is like, have at least 6 months of your nut, like your minimum nut, make sure that you have that, whatever it is, your mortgage, your rent, your food, your clothes, whatever you need, whatever is your monthly nut, make sure you have 6 months of that when you start being an entrepreneur, because you want to make sure that you have enough to get you through the tough times until you're seeing your business grow.
Yeah. And what's really interesting too is I think a lot of people, they look at businesses that are doing really well and they're like, I could get a business to that point in a year, right? And you could, and it happens. Sometimes you have people who rocket to success, but the reality is most of your entrepreneur stories, especially the successful businesses, are 5 and 10 and 15 years in the making. And everything from developing and collecting skills to getting the marketplace to lining things up, and we vastly overestimate what we can accomplish in a year and vastly underestimate how powerful your business can be if you have consistent small successes every day for 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you say 10 years because I was actually just talking to one of my clients who is, she's an expert in her field. She's an attorney. And we started working together about 1.5 years ago when she wanted to productize her knowledge. And we were just, and she's like, I feel like we're moving things along and things are getting bigger and I'm getting more well-known. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And, she's been doing this for a couple of years now, but then we were like, how long does it usually take, to get to like maximum level or like level where like kind of more mainstream, as you call it. And we were thinking, we're like, all of the people, all of the gurus that we know are like, yeah, it took about 10 years to get to that point, so it just takes some time you just have to have patience that even all the people that we see, the Gary Vaynerchuks of the world and the Gabby Bernsteins, and the
Gary Vaynerchuk envy.
Yep. I mean, but they all took them like 10 years to get to where they are now. Yeah, they are mainstream now and, and they make a lot of money and they are on social media and they get speaking engagements. Yeah, but Gary Vaynerchuk and none of these people got that, like in the beginning, like they all had to work for it. They all had to take. I remember even I was listening to Gary speak at one point, and he's like, "Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, before I got all my paid speaking engagements that I have now, I had to take on 3 speaking engagements, where I didn't get paid. So it's like it all starts from the beginning. The thing is that we, as like the mainstream, don't really see that. We don't see the struggles. We don't see what happened in the last 9 years of this person's journey. And we always just assume that like, oh, Gary Vee just, he's famous now. So he was famous his whole life. No, like none of these people were famous their whole life. Like it took him a long time and struggle and, 10 years to get to where they are now. But we all think that like, oh, well, everybody knows who he is now. So he's always been like that.
Yeah. And it's interesting because specifically Gary Vee talks about, using social media he talks about what he did, right? So a lot of people are like, oh, I could do that. And they're like, you could actually do that. But like they're seeing, I want to do what Gary Vee's doing. And you're like, Gary Vee's got 25 people on staff producing content for him, right? He's got a couple of full-time photographers that follow him around and video everything he does and everything he says, right? Like his staff of people that follow him around is probably bigger than your business.
Yeah. But again, he always says he started on his own. He did this on his own for many years, up until a few years ago when he got a staff of like 25 or 35 people who are doing that all now. But he had to work up to that point as well. It wasn't like he came out of the womb and he had 35 people working on his social media.
And so it's interesting to think like how you particularly for those of us who are in the digital marketing space, our clients are looking at what are the best examples of digital marketing, and names like Gary Vaynerchuk pop up, and names like Grant Cardone pop up all the time. And they're like, I want to be like that. And I'm like, okay, that's great, but that's going to take 10 to 15 years to get to. So what do we do in the meantime? Like, how do we take the little steps, and what do those little steps look like, right, to creating that type of a brand in your space?
And a lot of people don't have the patience for that.
Yeah. And the other thing that I find interesting is that, your big names like that, like Gary Vaynerchuk, is in a generalized space, right? He's not in a specific space for like the stuff he does on social media. And I was like, your business you don't need to be world famous, right? You just need to be, if you're in the top 10 of people who come up when they're looking for your thing, like you're golden.
Yeah.
Right. You don't need to have, people in Paraguay be able to look you up and watch your inspirational things on social media, because it's not relevant to your business.
Absolutely. And even Gary Vaynerchuk is not, he's known in our space, but he's not known like across the world by everybody. Yeah. Like there's a lot of, even entrepreneurs, they're like, who's Gary Vaynerchuk? And I'm like, I guess you don't know who he is, but that's fine. Even not everybody knows who he is. He's not like an Oprah.
Yeah. So it's a really interesting discussion too, which is, it's a thing that we have to fight against all the time, is those expectations and the risks that go into running a successful business. I sort of want to flip that and talk about the other side, right? So if that's the thing you fight against constantly, the driving force is the thing that you fight for. So just like Spider-Man fights to save New York, or Batman fights to save Gotham, or, Google fights to index all the world's information, what is it that you guys fight for in your digital agency?
Like in terms for our clients? What is it that you're looking to accomplish? Why do you guys do what you do? Well, we really are looking to serve entrepreneurs and to help them with digital marketing and social media. And I know that it kind of sounds almost like banal, but it's like there's so much opportunity that I see with digital marketing and social media that companies and entrepreneurs don't really take advantage of. And there is so much, I feel like, power in that, in the sense like it's so powerful to use these strategies that most businesses do not. And every time I engage with a new business, whether it's a client or someone I'm working with or an entrepreneur, it's like I can see all of the holes in their digital marketing and social media that I'm like, I really want to help. Like, I really want you guys like to utilize it to the best of your ability so that you're actually able to grow and be successful in your business. So that's really what I feel like we're striving towards. Yeah. It's very similar to like what I'm trying to do. And I was like, for whatever reason, I find it endlessly fascinating that if you say and do certain things in the right order in different places, online or off, that like you can have a lot of success, and you can actually like, you can impact people's lives with your products and services, and you can get paid well for it and all sorts of other things. And it's like, I don't know, it's this really fascinating ripple of effect of like, I help you with your digital marketing and your life gets better
because you make more money and you're helping more people and you're living your life's purpose. But then all the people that you're helping with whatever you do, their lives get better.
Exactly.
And yeah, it's like a really cool,
it's like a really cool MLM marketing scheme, but not.
Yeah,
but it's like a really cool, like,
it's like an influence.
Like I guess down, like whatever you call that, like
waterfall.
Down the pyramid. Yeah, pyramid.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a waterfall where it's like downstream people are also getting help and getting the support that they need. And yeah, that's another reason why we work with a lot of influencers and, you know, people who want to productize their knowledge. It's not just like we're helping their business and that's it. We're also helping, you know, their audiences and their audiences and their audiences.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I want to move on to something that's a little more practical, right? You know, and talk about your hero's tool belt. And I like to talk about this. You maybe have a magical hammer like Thor, or a bulletproof vest like your neighborhood police officer, or maybe you guys just really, really rely on Evernote in your business to make it, you know, to keep track of everything. What are some of the tools you guys make use of on a regular basis that you think really make a leveraged impact in the work that you do? You know, whether that's, you know, Zoom calls like we're talking on now, or your calendar, or, you know, whatever. What are some of your big movers that you're like, I don't know what our business would do without this?
I actually created a course around that. It's called Tech Up Your Business, and it's all the tools that we use in our business to have a successful business. And so I'm just trying to remember all the tools. I'm not going to go through all of them, but things like simple things like Calendly. Like before Calendly came about, you had to spend like 5 emails being like, I'm available to talk tomorrow between 3 and 5, and Wednesday between, you know, 9 and 10, and Thursday. Like, it's just like, it was like back and forth. But with like a platform like Calendly, you can just schedule a time when you're available, and it's like a one and done deal. So, I mean, that's just one tool. We use a lot of Google, like Google Sheets, Google Docs, Google Slides for collaborative, you know, for like writing copy or things like that, where like the copywriter would write copy and then they would share it with me and my team, and then we would all review it and the client would review it. So it's like collaborative, easy ways, instead of like having a Word document where you're like passing it all around. People are making, you know, changes to it, and then the changes get lost because, you know, too many people have like had their, you know, hands in one document and it wasn't recorded. So what else? I'm trying to think. Dropbox, of course, is a big one, you know, where we store all of our files in the cloud. I mean, I know that these are like not revolutionary, although, I mean, I guess 10 years ago they didn't exist, but they are very efficient and practical for running a small business. It's just, it's
amazing to me what you can do with some of these tools nowadays, like the like Google Drive, and being able to like, because I remember early in my business, it's like, if you wanted to share a file with someone, like a Word document, it's like, I email that Word document to you and to another person on your team and another person on your team. And now there's 4 different versions of the document, the one I have and the one each of your people have. You all make a change to it, and then we email it back and forth to a few different people. And like 2 days later, there's 400 versions of the document.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And nowadays, like a Google document, you're like, hey, here's the link for the document. You can all hop into it and make changes to it. And it makes the whole process seamless, which is, you know, like I said, it didn't happen 10 years ago.
Yeah, none of this was available. Like Calendly, Google Docs, Google Drive, Dropbox, none of these were around 10 years ago. And from like a bigger picture perspective, going back to entrepreneurship, it's like, it was also much harder to become an entrepreneur because it was all of these types of tools were either unavailable or very, very expensive. And so now all of these tools are so much available for a small business to have without, you know, spending like enterprise level budgets for tools like that. And so, of course, before, like, you know, 15, 20 years ago, entrepreneurship was also just so much more difficult because of all the tools.
It was farther away, right? You had to have a bigger nut to be able to afford to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why all of these bigger companies were able to afford those kinds of tools, but like the smaller guys couldn't afford them, and so they kind of pushed them out of the game.
If you go back 12 years, the iPhone was released. Before the iPhone, I had a smartphone then. It was one of the Motorola ones that Steve Jobs was like, hey, these ones, they suck because they have a keyboard on the bottom half. Like, I was like, I'm holding that phone in my hand as he's saying that, right? I was one of those geeks. And like things like the contact book on your phone, like the contact and like the calendar that's on your phone that everyone has, those things cost me $50 per app. $50
Oh, really?
for the contact book, $50 for the calendar app,
Wow.
and $50 for the other thing. It's like $150 in software to have what we would consider like your basic
Free.
contract.
Yeah.
Like all those things. So it's like, we're not exaggerating saying 10 years ago this stuff didn't exist. Like it wasn't easy to keep track of all of your clients in a CRM. It wasn't easy to get on a phone and talk to someone, halfway across the country on a video chat.
So I absolutely. So I mean, we use a lot of tools in order to make our business smooth and flow and be efficient. And I think those are just so critical. I think tools are very important in your business, because if you're not using them, then you're just, it's a manual process and things are taking much longer. So with AI coming around, I'm very excited about that.
So I'm curious about where you guys are hosting and like how you manage your standard operating procedures, like your documentation, because I'm currently struggling with that. So I'm curious what the solution you're using is to like, to use for your process documentation, and like how your staff accesses it and uses it for training and that kind of stuff.
It's actually nothing grandiose. It's actually Trello. Do you use Trello?
We do use Trello.
Yeah, I have a board that is called SOP, Standard Operating Procedure, and we have standard operating procedures in cards for our business and for our clients' businesses. So we just have like JeanGinzburg.com is, as a client of myself, we have all of that. And then we have cards that say, okay, this is how you post to social media. This is how you, create a blog post. This is how you do this. This is how you do that. So like we have cards for everything. And then underneath each card is a checklist. So you go here, you click on this button, you log into this account, you put this thing here and that thing there, and then it's just an entire checklist. So it's a very easy process we use Trello. Now there are other platforms like Suite Process, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And then Process Street, I think it's called, whereas like they're a little bit more advanced, where like you can create a checklist and then you can like check everything off, and then and then repurpose the checklist again so that the next person can check things off. Ours is a little bit less advanced, but it has like all of the processes in it in each of the cards and checklists. So I would recommend Trello. It's Trello obviously is free. That's another tool that we use, project management, for our clients and our business clients.
On that, one of the things that I've been working on is with our Trello stuff, we just upgraded to the business class for Trello to get access to their automation abilities. And you can set it so that processes get assigned to cards when you move them. So now it's like when this show's done recording, it'll go into the recorded, done recording pile, and it'll assign the next staff and add the process document to that card for it. So the card can like live all the way through the life of this episode. Right. And then it goes, because it's going to go to the prep, and then it's going to go to the editing, and then it's going to go to publishing or scheduling, and then publishing and whatnot. And each time it moves into one of those lists, it removes the people that were on the previous one, adds in the new people, and adds the right processes to it. So yeah, we use Trello for process management. We actually have a document site I'm using right now, so we just add links to the cards for the processes.
Absolutely. So that's, and I mean, I would, if you want something a little bit more complex, I would maybe look into Process Street or Suite Process. But like I said, for us, we just use Trello, and we have a board called Standard Operating Procedure.
Nice.
The Hero Show will be right back.
Are you tired of trying to write webinars that don't consistently convert? How would you like to have a webinar that effortlessly created sales in your online business? You can. Introducing the Webinar Alchemy Workshop. Webinar Alchemy Workshop is an online masterclass that will help you write incredibly persuasive webinars for your online courses quickly and easily. Using what you learn in this class, you can build a webinar that educates your entire audience while still creating sales. For a limited time, you can purchase this masterclass for only $7, and you'll get the exact framework I've personally used to help my clients sell more than $1 million worth of online coaching and training just over the last year. Simply text the word alchemy, ALCHEMY, to 444999, and I'll send you all the details.
The music is by Purple Planet Music. Visit www.purple-planet.com. And now, back
So let's talk a little bit about your own personal heroes, right? Frodo had Gandalf, Luke had Obi-Wan, Robert Kiyosaki had his rich dad. Who were some of your heroes? Were they real-life mentors, speakers or authors, peers who were just a couple of years ahead of you? And how important were they to what you've accomplished so far in your business over the last 12 years?
I would say Gary Vee is definitely a big person that I follow. He was just on my podcast about a week ago, and it was challenging to get him on my podcast, but it happened, and I was like so excited about that because I've been following him for probably about 3 years. So it's kind of like having like your hero on your podcast. You're like, oh my God, I can't believe that actually happened. So yeah, I've been following him for I don't know, 3-4 years now, and we have a similar background because he also is someone from the former Soviet Union, came here as an immigrant, had $100. Him and his family had $100 in their pocket, so I can definitely relate to that piece. To basically what happens when you come to a new country and you start from nothing. So, but just overall, his message. His, making sure that you're striving towards happiness is really his message. And of course, all the social media stuff that he does is very helpful for me because, of course, I'm in that space as well. So, so he has been a big, he's not obviously not my mentor like directly, but someone that I would say is a hero or someone I look up to for, just bringing his own message to his audiences.
Awesome. That's really cool. And I've got a couple of people like that as well that I follow all their stuff and just keep up with them. So it'd be cool to have some of my heroes on my podcast at some point. I'm working that direction, eventually have an audience worthy of getting attention.
You mean it's not me? Are you telling me I'm not your hero?
Honestly,
in your podcast?
You're not. I hadn't heard of you until we got you booked on the show. So unfortunately, not yet. Eventually, I expect that you will at some point be one of the big names in digital marketing space, and everyone will look up.
You're going to be like, I interviewed her before she was like a big deal.
Yeah, before she was cool, I knew her.
Yeah.
I said your award list is way longer than mine, so I'm impressed.
Oh, well, thank you very much. So yeah, I would say, of course, Gary Vee. There's a few other ones, but I feel like he's really kind of the one that his message resonates the most with me. There's a few other ones, but I feel like part of their message is not exactly what I'm looking for. Like, I don't know, like you probably have heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of him?
I have.
I like his message, of course, and he talks a lot about mindset as well, and but then he also talks a lot about kind of healing your body, which I'm like, it makes sense for probably other people, but I don't have that issue, so it's like that part doesn't really resonate with me as much. So there's a few people out there who some I think have a good message but a little too salesy and a little too just, I don't want to say douchebaggy, but a little bit in that sense. So I like part of their message but not other parts of their personality.
Yeah, that makes sense. You got to find the people that really resonate with what you're doing, so you can feed your mind well. Yeah. So let's go ahead and bring it home for our listeners and talk about your guiding principles. What are the top 1 or 2 principles or actions you use regularly that you think contribute to the success of your business? Maybe stuff that you wish you had been doing or had known about when you first started.
I mean, going back to believing in yourself, right? Believing in the mission, believing in your message. And so that's one of my guiding principles. And is if I feel like I'm not believing in what I'm doing, then I feel like everything kind of falls apart. So that's definitely one of my guiding principles, I would say, just making sure that you're believing in yourself and believing in what you do. And that's been something that I've been, and it hasn't always come easy. It hasn't always been like, yes, I always believe in myself. And sometimes you have doubts, and sometimes you're like, am I really doing the right thing? Am I really going on the right path? And, you have those inkling moments, but eventually you're like, no, I'm still doing this. I need to be doing this. I believe in this. I need to be moving forward. So, yeah.
Yeah. You got to just convince yourself. It's like standing on that precipice before you jump off of a cliff into the water, right? You're like, am I doing this? Do I float? Do I know how to swim? I do know how to swim. I can jump off here. All right. So, one of the last things we do on this show is something I call the Hero Challenge. It's a simple challenge. Basically, it's this. Do you have someone in your life or in your network that you think has a cool entrepreneurial story? Who are they? First names are fine. And why do you think they should come on our show and share their story?
Sure, I can share. I can share one of my clients' stories.
What's
Her
their name? Why do you think they should come share their story?
Oh, her name's Allie, and we've been working together for about a year and a half, and I know her really well by now after a year and a half. And so her story was, she's an attorney, and she was running her law practice, and she actually decided to move to Cabo because that's, I guess she wanted kind of that lifestyle. And so she was 7 months pregnant, and she was in Seattle, where I guess she used to live there before she moved to Cabo, and her house was destroyed by a hurricane in Cabo. So everything that she had in Cabo where she was living was like completely destroyed. So she was 7 months pregnant and had to figure out what she was, to do and how to run her law firm and where she was going to live. So I just find that story to be kind of interesting and resonates with,
it's definitely fascinating.
having like nothing, and then now she has a 7-figure business, a 7-figure law firm, and I've been helping her with her digital side of her things and her and productizing her knowledge. So she works with other women attorneys and teaches them how to run their law practice, because most attorneys don't really know how to run a business. They just know how to be an attorney, which I think is common. I think for a lot of people out there who run a business, they might not always know how to do that. So so it's just her, and she's just someone who believes in herself and who believes in her message and who wants to help her community. So
that's really cool.
So great to work with.
We'll definitely reach out later and see if we can connect about getting her on the show.
Absolutely.
At this point, thank you so much for coming on the show. My last question for you is, where can people find you? And more importantly, what are the ideal type of people to reach out if they're in our audience looking to work with someone like you guys?
Sure. So you can find me on social media pretty much anywhere. If you just look for Jean Ginzburg, or go to Google and put in Jean Ginzburg. That's Ginz with a Z as in zebra, B-U-R-G. And in terms of the types of entrepreneurs we work with, like I said, we have worked a lot with people who, like entrepreneurs who want to productize their knowledge. So they are an expert in a specific field, and they realize that they can't scale their business if they're constantly just trading time for dollars, and they have clients, and clients are great. And I think that's a great way to get started with your business. But if you want to scale, it's not possible to do that. So we work with a lot of entrepreneurs who want to take that knowledge and somehow put it into some sort of, whether it's a membership or a digital course or an information product or something where they can scale it to much more, where it's, some sort of topic that can be pushed out to many, many people instead of working one-on-one. So if you're someone who is interested in that, and so we typically help you with actually marketing and selling your course, since our area of expertise is digital marketing and social media.
That's really awesome. Yeah. And that's, I can speak from experience. You can make a lot of money if you productize your knowledge. And so if you haven't done that and you're thinking about it, definitely take the chance to reach out to Jean and her team. And again, thank you so much for coming on the show, Jean. Do you have any final words of wisdom before we hit the stop record button?
Any words of wisdom? Going back to believing in yourself, I think that's still, it's just something that's been resonating with me a lot lately, is if you believe in what you're doing and what your message is and who you want to help, then all of it will fall into place. So I think that's my last final words.
Awesome. You heard her. Believe in yourselves. Thank you so much for coming on, Jean. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.